Off the eastern coast of Africa, adrift in the vast Indian Ocean, lies an island seemingly forgotten by time. Here, trees grow upside down like living towers, creatures with glowing eyes roam the night, and the air echoes with the songs of beings one might think belonged only to fairy tales. But this is no legend, this is Madagascar, an island isolated for 80 million years where evolution has written a story unlike any other on Earth. A world where the past and the present coexist, where every step you take treads upon the remnants of the Jurassic Age. To understand why Madagascar is so extraordinary, we must turn back the clock. Not by thousands, but by hundreds of millions of years. At that time, the Earth's continents were nothing like those we know today. All land existed as one vast supercontinent called Gondwana, where South America, Africa, India, Antarctica, and Madagascar were still joined together on a single primordial map. Around 160 million years ago, the planet's crust began to shift. Gigantic rifts opened across the primordial ocean, and Madagascar, along with Africa, slowly drifted away from the rest of Gondwana. At first, the island remained close to the African continent, separated only by a narrow sea. But then its destiny was rewritten a second time. Roughly 88 million years ago, that small fragment of land broke away once more, this time from India, drifting westward and becoming completely isolated in the Indian Ocean. From that moment on, Madagascar was cut off from every other continent. No land bridges, no paths for large mammals or predators to cross. For 80 million years, it became a world of its own, a vast laboratory of evolution where nature experimented freely with life itself. The species left behind, stranded in solitude, began to change in ways the rest of the world would never see. Without lions, leopards, or tigers, the small became kings. Without elephants or buffalo, trees grew unrestrained, forming towering forests bathed in light. As time passed, layers of land and mountain ranges took shape. Heavy rains from the ocean swept over the island, creating lush rainforests in the east, while the west lay in the shadow of dry winds, turning into thorny woodlands and semi-desert plains. This stark contrast made Madagascar two worlds in one. On one side, a green paradise echoing with lemur calls. On the other, a land of cacti and cracked red earth. Within this fierce divide, life evolved along divergent paths. Geckos learned to vanish perfectly against tree bark. Frogs spent their entire lives in the treetops, never touching the ground. And the tiny primates, the ancient ancestors of lemurs, somehow reached the island, perhaps floating across the ocean on rafts of vegetation from Africa tens of millions of years ago. Once they set foot on the island, they never returned. With no predators, no competition, they thrived, diversifying into over 100 species, each with its own voice, its own rhythm, its own way of life. Imagine Madagascar in the late Cretaceous more than 70 million years ago. A world so alien it would be hard to believe it was the same planet we inhabit today. Back then, Madagascar lay closer to India and Africa. The climate was hot and humid year-round, with no distinct dry season. The air was thick with moisture, rain fell almost daily, and the landscape was a maze of mangrove forests, ancient rivers, and swamps, a living network pulsing with the rhythm of the primordial earth. There were no humans, no mechanical sounds, only the droning of giant insects, the roars of ancient reptiles, and the heavy footsteps of dinosaurs echoing through the forest. Trees towered tens of meters high, colossal ferns, primitive conifers, and plant species long extinct. Beneath their canopy lay a dim and humid world, ruled by reptiles, amphibians, and enormous insects. Even the sky itself was different. With higher oxygen levels and a warmer climate, life flourished wildly. Dragonflies the size of human hands, frogs as large as melons, and primitive birds with feathered wings and long tails, all blended into the chaotic symphony of prehistory. Within the ancient rock layers of western Madagascar, scientists have uncovered traces of creatures that seem to have stepped straight out of a nightmare. Jagged teeth, femur bones as thick as tree trunks, and giant eggs weighing nearly 10 kilograms, all tell the story of an age when monsters ruled the earth. Amid this world of giants walked one of the island's most fearsome predators, Majungasaurus, the infamous carnivorous dinosaur of Madagascar. It stretched over 7 meters long, weighed more than a ton, and possessed a thick skull with curved, blade-like teeth. Unlike Tyrannosaurus of North America, Majungasaurus lived in a harsh and isolated environment. There were few large prey animals to hunt, and when food ran scarce, it turned on its own kind. Fossils bear the unmistakable bite marks from another Majungasaurus, one of the rare pieces of evidence showing that dinosaurs practiced cannibalism. In its isolated kingdom, it was king, but also a brutal ruler of a realm of death. On the other side of the island, beneath flooded forests, another creature dominated both land and sky through sheer size. Repetosaurus, the only known long-necked dinosaur of Madagascar. At more than 15 meters long and weighing up to 10 tons, Repetosaurus was the gentle giant of the late Cretaceous. It did not hunt, it simply grazed in silence, using its crane-like neck to reach leaves that no other animal could touch. In that world, Majungasaurus was the hunter and Repetosaurus the prey. But when scientists studied the fossils more closely, they found surprising signs. The bones of young Repetosaurus bore bite marks from smaller carnivorous dinosaurs. This means that before Majungasaurus appeared, Madagascar had already hosted a complex web of predators and prey, species now lost to time, known only through scattered fragments of bone. In the murky swamps of ancient Madagascar, not all killers had sharp teeth. Some hid beneath the mud, waiting patiently for unsuspecting prey, striking with a single devastating snap. Among them was Beelzebufo ampinga, nicknamed the giant devil frog. This monster was the size of a soccer ball, weighing nearly 5 kilograms, with a massive mouth strong enough to crush a mouse, or even a baby dinosaur. Its skin was thick and armored, its bulging eyes like polished stones. When night fell, Beelzebufo did not croak. It hissed, a deep, rasping sound that silenced every smaller creature around it. In the ancient world of Madagascar, even a frog could be the terror of the swamp. And when the dinosaurs vanished, Madagascar did not vanish with them. The global mass extinction wiped out most species on Earth, but here, isolated in the middle of the ocean, a fragment of the prehistoric world endured. Millions of years later, as ice ages came and went, new giants appeared. Across the western plains strode Epyornis, the elephant bird. It stood over 3 meters tall, weighed half a ton, and laid eggs larger than a human head. A single egg could feed a family for days. The elephant bird could not fly, but it didn't need to. With no large predators, it became a gentle giant wandering freely through open fields. Beside it lived the giant lemur Megalodapis, the colossal tortoise Aldabrachelis, and pygmy hippos, together forming a dreamlike ecosystem where life seemed to defy natural order. Yet every prehistoric tale has its ending. About 2,000 years ago, the first human groups from Southeast Asia and Africa crossed the sea and set foot on Madagascar. They did not know they were entering a world trapped in time. To them, this was a promised land, forests, rivers, and countless strange creatures. But for the ancient inhabitants, it was the beginning of tragedy. Humans hunted elephant birds for meat and eggs, burned forests for farming, and captured lemurs and tortoises for food. Within a few centuries, the elephant bird was gone, the giant lemurs vanished, and the ancient forests turned to ash. Creatures that had survived 80 million years of isolation through asteroids, ice ages, and volcanoes could not survive humanity. When the smoke cleared, Madagascar entered a new era, the age of the small, of the survivors who inherited a world built on the ruins of prehistory. Today, as we walk through the rainforests of Ranomafana or gaze upon the towering baobabs of Morondava, it's hard to believe that beneath our feet lie the bones of Majungasaurus, the eggshells of Aepyornis, and the footprints of beasts that died tens of millions of years ago. Madagascar is a doorway in time, open between past and present, where every leaf, every stream whispers stories from long ago. The monsters may be gone, but their legacy still breathes in the creatures that remain. The wild gaze of the lemur, the sudden strike of the fossa, the long legs of the island's running birds, all echo the genes of ancient ancestors. Madagascar is not merely a graveyard of fossils. It is a place where the past still breathes. Millions of years have passed. This ancient island continues to drift quietly through the ocean, weathering storms, volcanoes, and tectonic upheavals, until it has taken on a new form, Madagascar as we know it today. Now the climate has softened. In the east, rain falls year-round, and moisture from the Indian Ocean feeds rainforests so dense they resemble labyrinths. Under the canopy, mist drifts endlessly. Sunlight filters through droplets, creating a dreamlike, ethereal glow. To the west, the air burns with dry heat. Winds carry the scent of salt from the sea, sweeping across red earth plains and barren valleys before settling beneath the feet of towering baobab trees, their trunks swollen like water towers, their roots driven deep into the parched soil. Between these two worlds, wet and dry, emerald and amber, stretches a living frontier where life branches endlessly into its own divergent paths. The rainforests still pulse with sound, the songs of birds, the leaps of lemurs, the hum of insects and frogs blending into an endless symphony of life. At night, the forest awakens. Moonlight glows in the golden eyes of lemurs, glinting off geckos camouflaged perfectly against tree bark. Every motion is slow and deliberate, as if nature here still breathes to the rhythm of millions of years ago. Madagascar today is a fusion of the present and ancient memory. Though the dinosaurs are gone, their spirit, their resilience, adaptability, and wild beauty still lingers in the small creatures that now roam the island. To step into a Malagasy forest is to enter a living museum where time does not flow forward but gathers, suspended in each drop of dew, each whisper of the trees. And within that living tapestry, we begin a journey to find the last heirs of evolution, the beings that have continued the grand story the past once began. In Madagascar, there are no monkeys, no apes, only lemurs. They are creatures of uncanny beauty, eyes as golden as moons, fur soft as morning mist, and voices that rise through the forest like hymns to the sun. Scientists believe their ancestors arrived on the island about 50 to 60 million years ago, possibly carried from Africa on drifting rafts of vegetation swept by the wind and sea. A journey between life and death, with only a few survivors. But from that small founding group, nature created over 100 different species of lemurs, one of the most extraordinary examples of evolutionary diversity on Earth. There are tiny mouse lemurs, weighing less than 50 grams, the smallest primates in the world. There are ring-tailed lemurs, intelligent, social, using calls to communicate and express emotion. And there is the Indri, nearly the size of a small child, living only in the eastern rainforests, singing across the canopy each morning in haunting melodic calls that greet the dawn. Lemurs are not just symbols of Madagascar, they are its heart, the living soul of its forests. Yet in their shimmering eyes lies a quiet fear, solitude. For if the forests vanish, so will they, and a story of evolution tens of millions of years long will come to an end. Madagascar has no lions, no leopards, no jackals. But nature abhors emptiness, and so it created a unique predator to fill the void at the top of the food chain. That predator is the fossa, a carnivore found only in Madagascar, part cat, part mongoose, yet belonging fully to neither. The fossa stretches over a meter long, moving with ghost-like grace. It climbs trees, drops silently to the ground, and hunts with blinding speed. Its favorite prey, the lemur. When night falls, the forest echoes with the short, chilling cry of the fossa. To the lemurs, it is the sound of terror, the final echo of a food chain balanced by nature for millions of years. But even the hunter is fragile. Deforestation shrinks its territory, and humans see it as a threat to their livestock. Thus, the last king of Madagascar is being pushed slowly to the edge of existence. If the lemur is the soul of the forest, then the leaf-tailed gecko and the chameleon are its magicians. In Madagascar, there are geckos so perfectly camouflaged that when they cling to a tree trunk, even the human eye cannot detect them. Their bodies are flat, their skin rough and bark-like, marked with cracks and patches of fake moss so convincing they seem sculpted by illusion itself. When a predator approaches, they don't flee, they vanish. And the chameleons, the island's most famous residents, have reached the very pinnacle of evolution here. Some are no longer than a human pinky finger, yet their eyes can rotate independently, scanning 2 directions at once in a full 360 degrees. Their tongues strike faster than a bullet with pinpoint precision, a true marvel of biology. Madagascar is home to more than half of all the world's chameleon species, most of which exist nowhere else. Nature has turned this island into a gallery of camouflage, where every creature is a masterpiece of adaptation. When you see the baobab trees, you'll understand why Madagascar is often called the upside-down world. Their trunks swell like giant water flasks, while their branches look like roots reaching up into the sky. Local legend says the gods planted the baobab upside down, binding it forever between heaven and earth. But in the language of evolution, it is a masterpiece of survival. The baobab stores water within its trunk, enduring years of drought. Some have lived for more than 2,000 years, witnessing the rise and fall of countless species. When the dry season comes and the forest withers, the baobabs still stand tall, sentinels of time, guarding the island's memory. Modern Madagascar is a living paradox of nature. In the east, rain falls year-round. The tropical forests are so dense that sunlight rarely touches the ground. The cries of lemurs echo through the canopy, mingling with the songs of birds and the hum of thousands of tiny creatures. Yet only a few hundred kilometers to the west lies a dry, red dust land full of thorns. There, the baobabs rise quietly from the sand, while insects and reptiles, small but tenacious, rule the land. 2 worlds, 2 extremes coexist on a single island adrift in the Indian Ocean. It is this contrast that makes Madagascar a paradise of evolution, where every mountain range, every river, every gust of wind gives birth to a new branch of life. Nowhere else on Earth reveals so clearly the power of time and nature's boundless creativity. When night falls over the eastern forests, the lemur's calls rise once more through the mist. Moonlight spills across the leaves, glinting off golden eyes, eyes that have witnessed millions of years of isolation and endurance. Small, fragile, yet still alive, these creatures breathe as living memories of the Earth itself. Madagascar is not just an island, it is a time machine, a place where past, present, and future coexist upon the same ancient ground. For tens of millions of years, Madagascar existed as an independent world, a fragment of Earth's primordial memory. And yet, within only a few short centuries, that paradise has begun to crumble, not from asteroids, volcanoes, or ice ages, but from the hands of humankind. From space, Madagascar looks like a painting being torn apart. The deep green patches of rainforest have been torn apart into fragments, small dots of life scattered among dry red soil where fires still smolder. In the low hills, people continue to burn forests for farming, an ancient practice known as tavi. When the flames rise, smoke coils upward, and the firelight reflects off the old trunks of baobabs, making them look like colossal pillars burning beneath the sky. Lemurs leap in panic through branches engulfed in fire. Birds abandon their nests and vanish into the smoke. Below, insects and reptiles suffocate in ash. Every hectare of forest lost is an entire chain of life erased forever. In just 1 century, Madagascar has lost more than 90% of its original forests. The remaining ones are broken into isolated patches, ecological islands where species wait for slow extinction. The forest is not merely a home for living things. It is the island's lungs, its waterkeeper, its soil binder, its soul. When the forest dies, everything begins to crumble. Today, over 100 species of lemurs still exist in Madagascar, but 95% of them are threatened with extinction. The Indri, the sacred symbol of the forest, once sang across the eastern mountains. Now its song can only be heard in a few small forests near Andasib, places untouched by chainsaws. Each morning they still sing, clear, lingering notes rising through the mist, sounding like laments for the forests that are gone. Lemurs are the oldest primates on Earth, survivors of the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. Yet now they cannot survive humanity. They are hunted for food, captured as pets, and driven from their homes as the forests burn. And with every lost species, another chapter of evolution closes forever. The fossa was once the apex predator of Madagascar, the king of the night. Now it has become the hunted. Locals see it as a threat to their livestock and kill it whenever possible. Only a few hundred remain in the wild, scattered through fragments of forest like dots on a map. When the food chain breaks, the ecosystem collapses. Rats multiply, insects ravage crops, and the forests vanish even faster. An island fine-tuned by millions of years of evolution has been thrown off balance in only a few generations. Madagascar covers less than 0.4% of Earth's land area, yet it holds more than 5% of all known species. 90% of those exist nowhere else. When a Malagasy species disappears, the world loses it forever. Inside trees, fungi and bacteria may lie chemical compounds unknown to science, potential cures for cancer, for antibiotic-resistant bacteria, for humanity's future. But every time a forest burns, hundreds of unnamed species turn to smoke. The secrets of medicine, of evolution, of life itself, gone, dissolving into the sky. Yet Madagascar still has those who fight for the forest. In Ranomafana, conservation groups replant trees one by one, restoring fragments of jungle. In Andasib, children learn to recognize lemurs by their calls, to understand that forests give not only firewood but life itself. International scientists come not just to study but to listen, to let the earth tell its story again. They set cameras deep in the forest and capture images of lemurs returning after years of absence. They record young fossas born within restored areas, proof that nature can heal if given time. In some regions, local communities have begun embracing ecotourism, protecting the forest as a lasting source of life rather than cutting it down to survive the day. The struggle is not easy, but every tree planted, every lemur saved, is a spark of light within the dark. Madagascar is not dead, only dying. Across the Red Highlands, dust rises thick, yet deep in the forest, life continues to bloom with quiet resilience. Tiny lemurs still give birth, old baobabs still flower each dry season, and the first rains still fall like a promise of renewal. Nature here fights for its survival, silently, patiently, day after day. The question is no longer whether Madagascar can survive, but whether humanity will stop in time to let it live. If this paradise disappears, the world will lose more than an island. We will lose a mirror of ourselves, a reminder of when we were small, connected to nature, a part of life rather than its master. But as long as a single raindrop falls on a baobab leaf, as long as a lemur's song echoes through the mist, Madagascar has not surrendered. And as long as the island still breathes, the earth itself still has hope.